Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike here, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Saturday, August the 24th. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 1 Travers. It's the Midsummer Derby. It's the highlight of the Saratoga Summer Meet, and it's one of 5 Grade 1 races on Saturday's program. Carded as race number 13. The gang's all here, Mike. We've got a field of 8 3-year-olds going the classic distance of 1.25 miles. The morning line favorite is Dornoch, the winner of the Belmont and the Haskell. You've got Fierceness, last year's 2-year-old champion and Breeders' Cup juvenile winner, coming off a big victory in the Jim Dandy. And you've got Thorpedo Anna, the superstar filly, taking on the boys. And what to do with Sierra Leone, who's been nibbling in his last few starts, but might finally get a setup.
Yeah, it feels like this pace could get fast. That would certainly help his chance, Sierra Leone's chances. Everybody's here, Dan. I can't think of the horse that's necessarily missing. And, just having Thorpedo Anna run here, step outside of the filly ranks just adds that much more intrigue to the race.
Add in a nice supporting cast of long shots in here, and the Travers looks like a super betting race. We throw up that Timeform US pace projector. No surprise, the pace expected to be fast. Horses like Dornoch and Fierceness like to show early speed. In all of their big victories, they've either been right on the lead or just off. But Thorpedo Anna brings a new wrinkle in here because she is not a slow horse. And if she breaks quickly, it'll be interesting to see how Brian Hernandez wants to play it. Does he send?
Yeah, tactics are going to be really, really important. I'm not sure what they're going to do. Drawing the rail with her, generally I feel like in these two-turn route races on the dirt, Dan, being on the rail is a really good position. Maybe not for her, because I don't know that they really want to send this horse and get her involved on a super fast pace with some really good horses. But if they try to take back a little bit, she gets trapped inside. That's probably not ideal either. It's going to be a really tactical race. And that first run through the stretch is going to be really important to see what position these horses wind up in.
The horse is right behind the top 3 on your pace projector. They're no slow pokes either. Unmatched Wisdom, unbeaten from 3 starts, just went gate to wire in the Curlin last time out at Saratoga. Batten down 3rd in the Jim Dandy. Well, his best races have come when they've just sent him to the lead 2 and 3 starts back. The pace could be hot. You see Sierra Leone at the back of the pack. He has the fastest Timeform US late pace rating, and he would benefit from hot splits. Let's start things off with Thorpedo Anna, who has nothing left to prove against the 3-year-old filly set after this race, the Coaching Club American Oaks. Keep in mind, she didn't break very well in this race, Mike, and I liked what the pace setter tried to do in here. She tried to win the race by going fast through a third quarter in 23 and 4. Thorpedo Anna was able to stay within range, open up at will, and holds off Candide, who just got beat in the Alabama last week.
Yeah, this is just another super strong performance from Thorpedo Anna here. Even with the poor break, it didn't really matter. She's too good for the fillies, 2 back in the Acorn. She went a fast pace. Just FYI, who was the 2-year-old champion, tried to take the race to her. They went a fast pace. She just absolutely buried that horse and won for Farmer. Kentucky Oaks was tremendous, also right up on the early lead on a wet track. She's just really good, Dan. She does not need the lead to be effective. So we'll see if there's a different trip that Brian Hernandez could work out for her, sitting just off of horses. That's fine with her. I don't know. This is a really tall order. This is easily the toughest race she's ever been in, but she's clearly good. I do not think she's overmatched by these horses.
6 for 7 lifetime, 4 in a row this year, and not threatened in any of those races. The 2 is Sierra Leone, who ran so well in the Kentucky Derby to be beat a nose. And then in the Belmont Stakes, looked like for a second on the second turn, he was a bit outpaced, came on the outside, was banged around a little bit, and finished up for another minor award. And a similar situation in the Jim Dandy, where he settled at the back, came with a run, tried to sneak inside of Fierceness, was forced in just a bit, and again came up a hair short. Are you getting tired of his act, or do you feel, listen, this is the race where you actually get a price on him?
Yeah, well, price always has to be a consideration, Dan, especially when you're talking about Sierra Leone, who's been really short prices in those last 2 defeats. You're talking about maybe he's the 4th choice in this race or thereabouts. So that certainly has to factor into your analysis of this race. Are you getting tired of him? I mean, I wouldn't, argue with anybody too hard who said that they were, because this is a horse who, his last 3 starts, it seems like he had every chance to win and he didn't quite get there. I would just say, though, at least in the Belmont 2 starts back, and I think one of the sort of maybe overlooked parts of that race, and I was a little disappointed initially in his performance there, but man, he got off to a really poor start in that race. And I think that really hurt his chances. Last time, Johnny V did the right thing with Fierceness. He made everybody go to his inside there. And if you feel like that affected Sierra Leone, I guess that's fine. I'm not sure that I look at it that way. but he ran well again in there. And Dan, that Jim Dandy to me, people can disagree. That race did not set up well for him. I thought he ran a really good race in there.
Unmatched Wisdom is the number 3. And keep this in mind. When Sierra Leone was finishing second in the Kentucky Derby, Unmatched Wisdom had yet to make it to the starting gate for his first ever race. He's done a lot in a short amount of time. 3 for 3 for Chad Brown, including this victory in the Curlin last time out. It was a short field. He went to the lead. He dominated. A 99 Beyer speed figure in only his third lifetime start. He has talent, but is this too much too soon? And does his running style kind of work against him with some quality speeds entered in the Travers?
I'd be worried about that maybe more than anything else. His pace is going to be a lot faster, and these are obviously better horses. He runs, pretty well in here. I like all three of his races, Dan. I think it's worth pointing out anyway that on his debut there on the wet track going the mile, they didn't send him there. He let another horse have the lead. He sat off it. He looked comfortable doing that. So maybe that's an option for them here. He's going to have to up his game. He's not that far off of these horses so far, Dan. This is just pretty clearly the toughest test to date for him.
Shug McGahee has an upwardly mobile colt up next in the number 4 Corporate Power. He won the Sir Barton 2 starts back over a muddy track in very game fashion, and we just saw him chase the Chad Brown undefeated Unmatched Wisdom when finishing second in the Curlin. Maybe the pace setup wasn't there for him in the Curlin. A short field, he got wired by the favorite. He's going to get a better setup here. Now it's all about whether he can step up his game slightly. I think this horse has some talent, Mike. I've seen worse double-digit horses in the Travers in the past.
Yeah, very valid way to look at his most recent start in particular, Dan, because Unmatched Wisdom was in control of that pace up the backstretch, and Corporate Power did take a run at him around the final turn. We saw the stretch run there where he just, was already turned away and sort of chasing in vain, but this horse was taken out of his game a little bit to have to go after Unmatched Wisdom. That won't be the case here. Javier can just sit back here, try to make one run and pick up some pieces in this race at a really good price.
The beautifully bred Juddmonte Homebred, the 5 Batten Down, exploded to win a maiden race at Churchill Downs, going 1.25 miles in gate-to-wire fashion, then showed the field his heels in the Ohio Derby in similar style. Now, in the Jim Dandy, either he wasn't quick enough to make the lead or they decided to rate. He ran fine, but was no match for Fierceness in Sierra Leone. Is he just a better horse when he gets to the lead, and is he quick enough to get to the lead against these?
Yeah, major questions that are going to have to be answered if you want to bet him in here. I personally do think he's a better horse when he's able to make the early lead. And he just got outbroke a little bit in that Jim Dandy last time, couldn't make the front. And after that, I thought Junior Alvarado gave him a pretty good ride, Dan. He was in a good spot. He did his best through the stretch. To me, he was just no match in there. I did not care for that performance all that much. I think he's a way better horse on the lead, and I don't see him wiring this field.
Honor Marie, the number 6, avoided the grind in the summer in races like the Jim Dandy and the Haskell. He's going to come into the Travers fresh after a 4th place finish in the Belmont. Now, he was sandwiched pretty badly leaving in the gate in the Belmont, but with his running style, you knew he was going to be last anyway going into the first turn. After that, I thought the trip was there for him. He was able to save ground on the backstretch into the second turn. He got to the outside. He was bumped while probably already beaten in mid-stretch, and then he finished evenly for 4th. He is getting blinkers here. He is going to get a setup. I think the jury's still out as to how good Honor Marie is, but again, the setup will be there, and he's coming into this race fresh. Blinkers are, I think, more for focus than speed.
I wonder. Yeah, I'm not sure that I love an equipment change going into a race like this, but maybe he needs a little bit of something for a little more focus in the stretch. I respect that he comes into this race fresh, Dan. And listen, we've already talked about the pace of this race. It could certainly play to his advantage in this race. I don't care about the Derby that much. He was one of the horses in there who had a pretty big excuse. I mean, he had a terrible start in there, was way too far back. So I don't care about that race. My opinion, though, is in the Louisiana Derby and in the Belmont Stakes, both those races. Listen, just in going back and watching them, and again, opinions will vary. To me, Sierra Leone just ran better than he did in both of those races. He's a better horse than Anna Maria is, and they both have the same style. Is that different now that Sierra Leone hasn't skipped any races and Anna Marie has and comes in fresh? Maybe it makes a difference.
Dornoch is the number 7, and he showed his grit as a 2-year-old when he turned back Sierra Leone when he looked beaten in the Remsen. That was a race where he went on the lead, and then after that start, he won a very weak edition of the Fountain of Youth. They rated him in the Bluegrass. He didn't seem very comfortable in that position. The Derby trip didn't work out. Since then, he's been unstoppable. Very gritty efforts in both the Belmont and the Haskell, turning back the talented Mindframe. Here's the Haskell. Mindframe made another good run at him. It's basically a carbon copy of the Belmont Stakes, and for an instant, it looks like Dornoch is beat, but we have to give Dornoch credit. He's a courageous horse. He will battle you all the way to the wire, and he gets it done again.
Yeah, I mean, we've come to expect it from Dornoch now, Dan. I don't think this was, always the narrative surrounding this horse, but he's shown in his last two races that when he makes the lead in the stretch of those races, he does not want to get passed by horses. And that's a really strong attribute for this horse to have. I mean, there's nothing flashy about him. You're not going to get excited when you watch him run all three of his major wins, those last two, and then even the Remsen from last year when he turned away Sierra Leone. I mean, all those races, it looked like he was beating the stretch. He didn't lose any of them.
Fierceness is the number 8, last year's 2-year-old champion. He won the Florida Derby easily against a very weak field, and then he bombed in the Kentucky Derby when he was pressing a very fast pace. He came back to form for Todd and the Jim Dandy. Let's watch this performance. He sat off an overmatched long shot. It really was a good setup for Fierceness, and as Mike mentioned earlier, Johnny Velasquez makes sure that Fierceness is way off of the rail, and you're going to see Sierra Leone have to be sort of forced inside of Batten down. Sierra Leone's running like he always does, but Fierceness, when he comes in and looks this horse in the eye, finds just a little bit more.
It's a good performance for this horse. I'm not going to knock him. I mean, I think there is a way to look at this race and to look at Fierceness in particular and say, listen, he's got the best race available. I mean, if he runs his best race, he's probably going to win the Travers. I feel like I can just pick apart his really big wins, Dan. All three of the triple-digit buyer victories for this horse. I just feel like I can poke holes in those performances, and that includes the race that we just watched, where I don't know, maybe you want to talk about it a little more. I thought he had a super soft trip in that race and took advantage, and that trip is not available in here, at least on paper. There's too much other speed in this race for him to get that trip in here.
It'll be very interesting to see how Johnny V plays the break here, and it's really a lot is dependent on Thorpedo Anna's tactics. If Thorpedo Anna goes, there's a chance that Fierceness could be sitting in a prime 3-wide tracking position, although losing ground chasing a fast pace going 1.25 miles, and we haven't even talked about that. That's a little bit of an elephant in the room. Is Fierceness going to be as effective going 1.25 miles as he's been going 1 16 and 1 1/8? But that at least would be a clear trip for him. If Thorpedo Anna doesn't go, does he hook up with Dornoch early on a hard chase and it sets things up for the closers? It's really a tactically fascinating race, the Travers. Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time in the Travers. We'll get to my sort of long shot play in here. You're going with Sierra Leone again. The setup is there. He's going to be running on at the end. And maybe it's time for him to step up from being a bridesmaid.
That's kind of ultimately how I kind of looked at it, Dan. This is the time right here. It feels like all the parts are in place now for Sierra Leone to sort of get the setup he needs and take advantage. We talked about how tactical this race is going to be. And I guess it's not, 100% that it's going to be a fast pace, but the more I looked at it, I don't see there's any way for that to be avoided here. I think this pace is going to be legitimate. It helps Sierra Leone more than it helps anybody else. This is the time, now or never.
Anna Marie's perhaps an unlikely winner on paper. Perhaps he's best played on the bottom of single race exotics if you believe this pace is going to heat up and he's going to close late into those fast fractions. I just have a lot of questions around some of the major contenders. Thorpedo Anna is obviously good, but this is going to be her toughest test from a pace and class standpoint, and she's going to take a lot of money. I've lost way too much money on Sierra Leone. I just can't do it again. If he wins, I will simply tip my hat. Dornoch is coming off 2 very tough races. I didn't love his recent workout I saw on XBTV. He's never really been a great workhouse, but he had a ringy dingy. He was an okay filly, went in company, and he just didn't look as smooth to me as I've seen him in the past. And as for Fierceness, a horse I want to use a lot of in here, I think he's going to get back to his good form. I'm concerned, is it going to be a wide trip chasing a fast pace at a distance that could be far for him? So I landed on Anna Marie. He had a good trip last time out in the Jim Dandy. He has to improve probably 4 or 5 lengths in this race, but the price has to be right. I won't take anything less than the 20-1 David has him pegged at. Mike's going 2.761. I'm going 6.827. It's going to be a sensational Travers on a major, major Saturday afternoon program at Saratoga.
Hey friends, you look like you're in need of a winner. If you enjoyed the great content right here, just click and subscribe right here and enjoy. the great DRF.com race of the days, the phenomenal stakes previews, and so much more. Many of that content featuring me and my exceptional selections. Trust me, you won't regret it.